If it was easy, it would be boring now, I guess.
It would, yeah, you're right. I think from Osborne's perspective, it's been quite a refreshing change to work with people that we normally compete against in tenders and construction projects, and to have that open dialogue, certainly in an environment that's so new and we've all got so much to learn about it.
Yeah, I think we talk about collaboration quite a lot. Do we truly do it anywhere in any of these forums? Because I think if we're talking about lessons learned and improving, we need to be warts and all, don't we? You know, where things have gone wrong, how do we make a solution? And as long as we're all sort of in there, in a sort of, we have an aligned ambition, we all end up in the same place, don't we? And we're not going to maximise this market if we don't collaborate. So
no, that's right.
It's been a huge learning curve for all of us, I think.
I think it has, and I think the other, I can see that as this programme of work develops, that the collaboration will become more important. It's also sharing lessons learned on things that don't work that well, and actually how can we improve it? And instead of keeping that together into our sort of close to our chests, sharing that with others and saying we all want to improve at the same way.
We've got to embrace failure, haven't you? Because that's where you learn. You tell your kids the same sort of story, didn't you? Fail, learn from it and improve. That's what we need to do as an industry, I guess. Yeah. And you're right, the bigger volume we've got, the bigger buying power we've got with any of the suppliers, and there's a small sector at the moment, so we need to sort of do more of this. We need to encourage more people to get involved in this and innovate, and it's the first time I can honestly say that we have truly collaborated with other competitors.
Yes, I would 100% agree with that. I've been doing this for 25 plus years, and we talk about it a lot, but this is probably the only example I could give in my career where we have actually done that. We've got a massive responsibility, really, as the forerunners of this, as the four main contractors on this framework, to get this right now, first time, so that this acts as a blueprint and can be nationalised. And actually, it's a challenge that I think we're certainly up for at Osborne, and thoroughly enjoying working with it. But we've got to continue to do this, haven't we, if we really want to make headway.
I think the first meeting was really difficult, as you said. I think every meeting since that has become a little easier.
Yeah.
We agree we're going to declare stuff, we're going to show bits and pieces that we wouldn't normally share. I think people get used to that. I think it becomes easier as you do it. So I think we're probably on 4 or 5 collaboration hub meetings now. You just feel like you go there expecting to sort of, talk about, the problems and sort of how we're going to resolve those problems. We should do more of it, absolutely, and not just on Retrofit. And everything we do, we should do more of it. And just be honest about how we're going to get to these solutions quicker, scale. It's all needed.
More than enough work to go around. Yeah. And actually, if we work together, we just do it better and more efficiently for the benefit of the customer.
Cake is big enough, isn't it?
It's a difficult thing, isn't it, to unwind that pattern in yourself in how you don't share that information. And I remember the first collaboration hub meeting. I mean, I feel quite open and transparent with the information we're sharing, but it definitely goes against the grain because we don't, as contractors, people working in property, it isn't something we do.
I think it was like a poker game, wasn't it?
It was,
We're just going to declare their hand the first. And we're looking around at each other and deciding, actually, this makes sense. We need to do this. Yeah,
and it's interesting because the communication upwards and downwards in my organisation, so bringing teams along with that ethos, a lot of questions in the first few months, are we really allowed to tell them that? Is this a trick? And then when I'm explaining sort of up the food chain to the chief exec that this is an open process and there's this collaboration hub and we're sharing this, they're looking at me, really? We're going to let them know this detail? Yeah. But I mean, everybody now has come along with that. But the early days, it was lots of raised eyebrows.
I think the penny dropped. Same for us. When you talk about you talk about the scale, you talk about the scale that's needed, and you talk about the volume and the value that's out there. We're not going to reach anywhere near that if we don't collaborate. No. And when you talk about that sort of process of you're not giving away all your secrets. You're trying to help the whole industry get involved in this retrofit sector. One of the key challenges right at the beginning for us was just to get that message within the business. Understand why, as you said, sat in front of the chief executive and wants to know why I was declaring all our secrets, lessons learned, etc. He wants to know, what's the big picture for us. And I think once we go through that process, the size of the scheme, it's even things like the contracts. The contracts were completely different to what we're normally used to. Yeah. There's guarantees in place. We're there for 30 years potential on some of these schemes. So it's a big they're not used to seeing that sort of promises being made. So it's a bit of a learning curve internally for us as well, in terms of how we convince the people that sign these schemes off to get involved. And I think we're getting there. I think we're starting to get there. They're starting to understand, actually, if you do it right up front, it's not a massive risk going forward for 30 years, is it? You design it right, you build it right, you've managed your risk already.
That's right.
So it's not a big issue to what we initially thought it was. So I think some of the guys are starting to really understand why we're getting involved in these schemes.
Yeah, and I think when you think of the cultural change programme that we've had to put our people on, almost subliminally through the initial tender process of this opportunity, is that we've had to start at a basis where lots of people know that we've got a climate emergency, and we've got to hit a number of targets. But actually to translate that into action, into our teams, and explain what that means for a customer and what it means from us from a construction and project management process, that message is almost adapted depending on who you're talking to in the organisation.
Yeah.
And then you're absolutely right. You layer on the contractual arrangements and the performance guarantees, and then you have to almost reset that conversation to sort of frame it in the right way. But culturally now, everybody in my business talks about retrofitting. 18 months ago,
absolutely,
people didn't really understand what that was.
I think the key thing for us as well is because it's a huge learning curve we're all going on. We're learning lots of stuff really quickly. It's how we capture all that information as well and not forget about it. Because it's the failures, I think, that we need to sort of focus on and understand why we went wrong. Hopefully we won't do it again. Hopefully we won't do it again going down the line. But we really got to capture that information for the wider good, so that it encourages other people to get involved in these sort of processes. So it's further down the line, but lots of lessons learned to be captured and sort of communicated out to the wider sector, I think.
Yeah, we need to consider really how we start to do that, I think, because we need a repository for all the things we're learning now. And whilst we've collected that, it needs to be easy to use and access for future projects and future partners that come on board. But also there's the ability then to share that wider into manufacturing and our subcontractor chain to make sure that they are repeating the same issues. So I think that's probably one of our next challenges, our next collaboration hub. Another solution. I think when it comes to the industrialisation of retrofitting and how we can really sort of scale it up, one of the key things we need to look at is how we deliver off-site manufacturing. And the way that we've approached things differently at Osborne is by working with our sister company Innovare, which is part of the Jeffrey Osborne group of companies, to design a panelised solution that can be hung on the outside of a property to improve the thermal efficiency. And we think at the moment that sort of 70% of those panels would come off a manufacturing line in the right size with a number of cuts. And actually, if we can get to a position where we can do that, we're not relying on wet render systems, which are obviously weather dependent, this could be a real opportunity, I guess, to fast track or speed up the deployment of these retrofitting activities.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how you get on with it. You're ahead of us in terms of having your own internal resource to do that. We're talking external suppliers, and we've had some solutions fail. It hasn't worked. We've moved away. We've got some new suppliers on board, but that's all part of that learning curve again, isn't it?
It is.
What doesn't work. So how can we move forward and look at what does work? So we've got some good suppliers on board now that we can talk to. They're really keen, which is great to see, to get involved. And they're looking at ways that they're scaling. I think that's the challenge they've got now, is that they're moving their core business away from what they're normally doing. They're trying to do this retrofit side and they're trying to ramp it up, but they're sort of a bit nervous about how quickly they do that.
Yeah.
So it'd be really to see how you guys get on with that in terms of performance and the speed that you can do it at. So
and how easy they are to install on site, and whether there's any inclement weather and the challenges that we might face with that, and actually whether that measure and that application works better for maybe blocks of flats or terraced houses, and there's different solutions. It'd be interesting, I think, when we go further down this line with off-site construction methods, if we actually created a subgroup of people who can share their learning on that. If every home in England that needed retrofitting is over 20 million, even if just half of them had a panelised solution, that would definitely speed it up, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, you need to give them the volume, we need to give them the pipeline, don't we?
Yeah.
Because there's no point in them investing in their systems unless they can see the pipeline coming forward. I think digitalisation's got a huge part to play, because if you think about 27 million homes in the UK, something like that. It's a massive number. And you said, 1.5 every minute needs to be retrofitted. So how do we survey all these properties, get real data from those properties that we can rely on, give us confidence that we can price it, at scale? We can't survey every property before we price it. So there has to be a better way of doing that. So how can we digitise a survey process, digitise a design process, digitise a sort of aftercare process as well? When we actually finish the works, what do we leave behind in terms of a property passport, information that can be used by the client for the next 10, 20, 30 years, so they understand that what's in that, because it's all hidden as well, isn't it? All the stuff we do, insulation-wise, it's all hidden behind that external wall. So how can they understand, what ventilation pipes are in there, what how many have we changed, not to drill in certain places, that sort of stuff. So there's all sorts of areas digitalisation can sort of get involved, and we're starting to see some of the architects, some of the consultants start to use these systems because they see the volume.
Yeah, they see the opportunity as well, I think. And it makes me wonder whether we're sort of moved to more of an FM model for housing, with the QR codes and the as-built drawings and the digitalised scans, so we know where everything is in those properties. And then latterly, after people have moved in, you've got the whole opportunity in terms of monitoring the performance of that dwelling. Yeah. That data has got to be collected centrally, because if we're beginning to understand what components produce what outputs, that's only going to inform future designs and get things to be better and better as they go on. We
have all that data, aren't we? All that data comes from all those sensors we're going to install. So how do we help our clients maximise the benefit of that information? The energy performance, when any heating's coming on, going off, the heat loss, that sort of information. How do they maximise that to then inform their own investment strategy? So hopefully the idea would be for them to save money over the longer term because they've got better data. Yeah. But they're going to get inundated with data. So how do they sort of, make use of huge amounts of data sets to the best ability? So a huge area for growth as well in terms of, software suppliers that can analyse that data and present it in a better way for clients.
And it almost needs to be a feed-in from all of the data in all of the properties to a centralised resource, because to get the real benefit of shared learning, we shouldn't silo that data based on where those people's properties are or who their landlord is. So we need to consider how we would do that.